All right, in this last video, I'm going to go ahead and finalize the topic about demand, what determines demand. And we're still on this idea of shifts in demand. So we're thinking of anything that can change, anything that will change the demand for something, and we're talking other than the price. So we just got a few more. I'll kind of go through, hopefully go through them a little quicker than I did the other ones. So one is we can call as tastes or preferences, and this is kind of a catch-all category. So what I mean by catch-all category, you can just kind of throw anything in here that didn't fit anywhere else. So this could be all the kinds of things. So we could have this is, I guess, the third one. We were like fashion, or trends going on, or advertising, or weather, okay, for example. So all these kind of things. So if the product becomes more desirable, demand will increase, and if the product becomes less desirable, the demand will decrease. You could also kind of put in here some kind of scandal or those kind of situations. So let's think with a case where the demand becomes more desirable, the product becomes more desirable. So here we can see ice cream, and then got our demand, and we can say, well, what happens to the demand for ice cream when, say, the weather gets hot? So we're going to get hot weather, hotter weather. We can say, okay, hotter weather, and what's going to happen with demand? Well, yes, as you can guess, people are going to buy more ice cream. Not too many people want to go around buying ice cream in the middle of the winter, although I'm kind of one of those crazy people. But yeah, when the weather gets hot, you'll see a lot more people buying ice cream, and sometimes you'll see a lot more ice cream being sold. Okay, so that's taste. You could also fit in things like a big advertising campaign increases the profile of the company, or it could be trends, and something that used to be really popular starts to become seeming old-fashioned. So you can kind of get the idea from there. Okay, a fourth one that can affect things, it's kind of an interesting one to me, is population and demographics. Okay, so population, and demographics can have a pretty big effect. So we can sort of define demographics here. Kind of a simple way to define it would be just the characteristics of the population with respect to things like age, race, gender, okay, the structure. So we can kind of define it this way: characteristics, characteristics of the population, age, race, and maybe gender, and maybe other things too. Okay, so I'll just kind of so yeah, we can think so, and it could be population in general too. So let's suppose we're going to look at, and this would be kind of a current thing going on in the US right now, but we could look at medical care. So if the population is aging, if people on average are getting, the average age is getting older, which it is, then we would expect increase in the demand for medical care. Okay, so if we have an aging population, then we would expect an increase in demand for medical care. So per capita, we would expect people to be spending more on medical care, and we expect the medical sector to be growing. Okay, and you can think of some other things as well. Another one which you probably heard of before, or seen before, maybe in the housing market. So if you're in a city that is shrinking in population, and so there's been some cities over time that are shrinking. One of the most famous ones, I think, was Detroit. So there was I don't know for sure, but I think it's not shrinking anymore. But there was a time when Detroit was losing population, and so when you lose population, you're going to see a big decrease in the demand for housing. Okay, I've also heard that this is happening in some cities in Japan, in the rural areas, and I think it's probably happening in quite a few rural areas here, where the population is actually shrinking, and therefore there's a lot less demand for housing. Okay, so you get the idea. I think in the comments section, not the comment section, but the class discussion, we'll go a little deeper, and you can get some of your own suggestions here as well. Okay, Then the last one we're going to show here is our expected future prices. Okay, so basically, well, you can if it's something that you can wait. Now, if it's something like lunch, even if you know that lunch might be cheaper in a month, you're probably not going to wait a month to eat your lunch. But if it's something you can wait on, like buying a TV, a car, a new phone, etc. So they can either you can either speed up. So if you expect a future price change, you can either you may decide to speed up or delay purchase, right? And so that's going to affect current demand. So, like for example, if you expect the price is going to go up in the future, this is your expected future, then it's going to make you want to buy it now. And you're going to want to buy it now because if you buy it later, you're going to pay more. So, for example, this would be kind of a classic analysis sometimes of maybe a housing market. If everyone believes that it's going to get more expensive, then people would want to buy now. And then if a lot of people want to buy now, this would increase the demand now, right? So you don't want to wait, then buy now. And the opposite would also be true. If people expected the price to fall in the future, well, then less people would want to buy now, right? So this either way, it would affect the current demand. So this kind of ends this part about thinking about what shifts demand, and I just want to emphasize something before we move on. So we talked about it, and I kind of mentioned it, but I'll emphasize a little more. I want to emphasize the difference between the change in demand versus a change in QD. Okay, and I'm just going to look at both cases. I'm just going to look at the case of increase. Okay, so I'm going to look only at the increase case. So let me draw a demand curve real quick, and then we can label a point here. So I'm going to label this point A. Okay, and we're going to look at two different movements. So I'm going to label this A, and so the first movement is going to be from A to B. Okay, we're going down here, so going this way, right? This movement from A to B, and so what do we call this movement from A to B? So A to B is along the curve, right? This is a change in quantity demanded, and this is along the curve. And what could cause this? Well, only one thing could cause this. This was caused by a decrease in price, right? Everything else would have been a shift. So this causes to have a decrease in price. And let's look at a second kind of movement. So let's go here. So suppose we went from A to C. Let me draw the curve here. Okay, let me change the color. Let's go to C. Okay, so this movement from A to C is this is a increase in demand. Okay, you can call this an increase in demand. Okay, or a change in demand, but it's specifically an increase. So it's an increase in demand. It's a shift. And what could cause it? Well, something else, right? This needs to be a change, a positive change besides the price. So you could go ahead and kind of remind yourself of some of the things that could do this. One of the examples would be the substitute good raising the price, the complement lowering the price, or some kind of favorable demographics, or if it's a normal good, people get more income. So anyways, make sure you're clear. A to B is called a change in quantity demanded, and A to C is a change in demand. And make sure you're clear about the difference. It becomes very confusing if you're not clear about this difference.